Everything Chris. Everything Chris. Everything Chris. Everything Chris. Everything Chris. Everything Chris. Everything Chris.
Yeah, played ever since.
Okay, so leading up to the Wildcats journey, talk us through that from when you first started playing and then leading up to Wildcats. How did that work?
Yeah. So when I first started playing, Wildcats didn't actually have junior teams.
Yeah.
So I used to play for the Division 2 side, and then they also had a Division 1 side, which was like what the equivalent of the WBBL now, right? So I played for Division 2 when I was younger, and then I think I played for Doncaster for 1 year as well. My parents used to like take me around to. There was a coach called Ian Day at Doncaster, who was a really good coach. So they used to just take me around to like who were good coaches and stuff. And then when I got to about the age of 16, then we started having junior teams at Wildcats. So then it was Wildcats then really. All the way through until I played in the Division 1 team when I was about 17, 18, and then I went to the States.
Okay, you went to the States. Okay, where did you play in the States?
At Loyola University in Maryland. It's based in Baltimore.
Yeah, and you was there for the full 4 years?
Yeah, 4 years.
How was that whole experience, playing in the States? And I said something in it.
The first year is awful, like, not gonna lie. The first year I was like calling home crying, and yeah, it was bad. The first year was bad, but after that, my sophomore year, junior year, senior, I would go through my freshman year all over again. Just to have those 3 years. Like, I absolutely loved it. And I get so jealous of any of our kids that are like going across to the States now. I'm like, I want to do it again. Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So when you came back, is that when you went back to play for Nottingham Wildcats when you came back from the States, or was you doing?
So I came back and I went to Greece and I played in Greece for a little while.
Oh, how was that?
Yeah, it was good actually. So one thing about myself is that I doubt myself. Like, that's my go-to. Is like the first time I do something, I'm like, I'm not gonna be not be able to do this. The team that I went on to was like a Euro Cup team or whatever. Yeah. And then so I was quite like pleasantly surprised when I got there that I was like, oh, okay, if I can play in this, like, it's fine. Yeah. And then with that team, there was like problems with finances and things like that. So,
paid or nothing, or was it just?
So I can talk about it now, can't I? It doesn't really matter. I got paid like the first month was fine, like no problems. And actually, one of my teammates there, Jen, she was amazing. She played with Diana Taurasi on the Phoenix Mercury, so she'd like won a WNBA championship and so she was sick. Yeah, she was amazing. And she had actually played for them the year before. So I remember, like, my agent was her agent, and he said, just have a chat with Jen, because I wasn't sure about going, just because I'd heard, just be careful about Greece in case you don't get paid or whatever. So I called her, and she had gotten paid the year before, so it was fine, right? So I was like, okay, cool. So she came back, she was with me, so this was her second year. And then one of my other favourite like teammates ever, Chloe, she was like a centre from USC, and she came for her first year with us as well. So it was all fine, like in the beginning. I remember a month in, we had like a team function. So out there, it's not just basketball. The club has football, basketball, volleyball for the most part.
That one club there has one other sport, football.
Exactly.
And basketball, and another sport you just said.
Yeah, and volleyball, and yeah. Mm-hmm. So all of like the fans from the town came, and it was in the sports hall, had this like big function, and the president of the club had stood up and he was talking and addressing everybody. So we couldn't understand what he was saying, right? But Nikki, she was one of the younger Greek players. She was translating it all for us. And she was like, you know, he's just apologising for everything that happened with like the finances and stuff. So we were like, what? Why? What's happened with the finances? No. And so then it all came to light that apparently the summer before we sort of got there, the old president of the club had just taken all of the money from the club and done a runner, basically.
Wow.
So there was like loads of fines and stuff that hadn't been paid, and the football team had got relegated from, they were in the top flight of their division, like down to the bottom flight as a penalty.
Oh,
it was a mess. So then obviously like we called our agent and stuff, and he was like livid. He was Greek as well, so he'd sort of like come over and was trying to sort it all out. But at the end of the day, they were trying to get sponsors and stuff. It just wasn't fun, because then you knew that like people were coming to watch you, not because they wanted to see you like win for their team or whatever. It was like, are we going to pay this? Are we going to give money to this team to pay these players? And it was just a mess. The whole thing was a mess. So, so I came home. I came home and then I went to Slovakia. And I tore my MCL and wasn't recovered fully enough. And so my first year was a bit of a nightmare.
Oh man! What year was that then, roughly then?
That would have been 2009-10 season.
If not. Alright, so when did after all of that then, so when did the Nottingham...
so that was sort of just a year or so after that I was playing for them professionally. I played for them ever since, really. I've had like sort of spouts in and out of professional basketball. So for a couple of years I was a primary school teacher, and I still played in the WBBL but didn't get paid. Then I went back to it for the Commonwealth, to train for the Commonwealth Games, and then after that now I still play but I don't get paid anymore.
Okay, so there's been a bit of a, on that side of it there's been a love for it, but on the other side of it, the business side of it, it's been a bit of a patchy relationship, you say?
Yeah, I'd say so, but I guess at Wildcats, like in Nottingham, I've sort of been in control of the narrative of it all.
That's good though. The whole time I told you.
So that's nice, and they've been, you know, like super supportive and everything, obviously, of everything that I've sort of wanted to do in my career. But it's more so like when I went away, I'd always wanted to be a professional player, right, since a kid, and I went away and I was just sort of like, God, this is not what I had envisioned it being at all. And now, actually, when I speak to like other players on like the GB team and stuff, on the senior team, I remember at like one of my first camps, they were saying to me, if you would have just stuck your first year out, you know, things would have been different. And it was interesting because they'd all had, you know, similar first years, whether it's like not to do with money or injury, it might have been, but just they all found that first year really, really tough. I guess just like going to college again, like your freshman year. And then they said like once you came out of that season, it was a lot easier. So, hey, Jen.
Shout out Jen. I'll give her a wave for you, Jen.
Thank you. Oh, and Leanne, can you give her a wave as well? Thanks. So they all sort of said, I remember sitting with actually Jen's sister Jo at GB camp and just saying how maybe I wish that I'd have given it some more time, because they, you know, hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? But I guess I sort of went out there, it was all like I had an awful experience, came back, and then was just sort of comfortable, like at Wildcats. Like I wouldn't change it for the world now, because sort of like the path of my life has been the way it should have been, and I truly believe that. But I might have gone out for another season, like to another place, if I had, if I'd have had that hindsight, maybe.
Yeah. Definitely. Oh, that's good. And no, how does that feel, like you're coming back home to your hometown to play for the Wildcats? I was told by Nicolette I'll do this.
Is that what she said?
Wildcats. That's what I said. So this is what we got to call it. The
Oh my
Wildcats.
god! Yeah, I guess you could do that.
Oh, yeah. They have a cat mascot running around, you know.
Yeah, no. You know what? Playing for Wildcats, it's like I love it, but it's kind of, hey Alex, it's kind of like a double-edged sword, right? Because it's hard when it's my team, so like it's my parents' club, right?
Also,
so
that's your parents' club.
Yeah, so I'd grown up around it. So there's like an element of you never really, you kind of always fit in with the team, but with some people you always do. Alex loves the Wildcats. I love you too. Alex was one of our players. She plays for Leicester now.
I'm gonna scratch you, Alex. Why, yeah.
Right, but yeah. So, but then, yeah. In some ways, you just don't. You can't fit in because, you know, decisions that happen behind the scenes or always get blamed on you. Like, you must have always known everything that was going on. So in that way, it can make like relationships quite difficult. And I think I'm quite guarded in that sense. So if I was in the way I was like in the States or the way that I was with like the senior GB team, it's not the same. You don't feel the same because you don't have that guard up. You can just be fully yourself.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is. I love it. I would never play for any other team in England. But it can be quite difficult.
All right. Do you have any siblings? By the way, or are you the only child? Oh, she had it all to herself.
Spoiled, you know.
Oh yeah. I was to see. Was there any competition between you and your dad? Maybe any competitiveness at times?
Between who? Sorry.
You and your dad, or you and your mum even?
Me and Mum, really. Mum more because. So she was kind of like you were saying about Andrea beat you at 1-on-1 when you was 11.
Like 10, I remember.
10, sorry.
Crystal Palace. 11 years old. It was just before Hosanna's tournament, and yeah, she punished me, boy.
Yeah, well, that's what my mum would do, like all the time. And you know, you're thinking like, let your kid win. No, never. Like, and I think I was only got to, when I was maybe like 14 that I started to actually like beat her. So yeah, super competitive. And then with dad, it was more just like, because he was my coach, right? So that never went very well. But it was more just, you know, you'd go, so junior basketball, let's say, you'd have loads of points in a game and you'd come off and you have like the best. I remember having one of the best games of my life. I'd like set like a record for the amount of points like scored as a junior in the club. And I came off and he was like, what about that free throw that you missed? You know, and you're like, dude, like, give me something.
I want something.
Yeah, I never get anything from him, honestly. He's always...
You're probably going to regret it, like, damn, wish I wasn't so hard. Oh,
yeah. No.
Everything Chris. Everything Chris. Everything Chris. Everything Chris.